been a morning. I forgot my notes at the studio. Sat down to record. Had no notes. Had to leave. Drive to the studio. Come back. It's humid as hell outside. My hair's thrown up. Whatever. Welcome to True Crime and Art. Hi, I'm Violet. I'm going to be your guide. No, I'm just kidding. I am going to be telling you the story of Lizzie Borden today. So, people who are fans of older stories, who like the creepy, black and white photos, you're in for a treat. As a warning, I am going to show you guys crime scene photos. So, if it's not your thing, hop out. Don't forget to like on your way out, though. So, anyway, welcome to Murder, Mystery, and Masterpiece. Again, I'm your host, Violet. We're going to talk about some true crime, paint some art. Go ahead. I'm going to give you a second. I want you to go ahead and subscribe. It's right there. Right there. Just hit subscribe. Okay, good. Awesome. Thanks. Now let's keep going. And whenever we're finished with the video on your way out, make sure to like it first, okay? That's the rules. Got it? All right, awesome. Let's get started. So first off, we're going to talk about Lizzie. There's going to be lots of people in this story because it's not just Lizzie Borden, okay? But she is the main one. So Lizzie Borden. Oh, what do you guys think I'm painting today? She was born July 19th, 1860 in Fall River, Massachusetts to Sarah Morse and Andrew Borden. Now, Andrew Borden, he was a descendant of a pretty wealthy family. Except for Andrew, his immediate family wasn't like super wealthy. So if you've ever gone on vacation with your family and you're hanging out with the cousins and you realize that they all have like designer handbags and you just picked yours up from Walmart, no shade, totally that cousin, but that's how Andrew was. He was the poorer cousin. Again, no shade, it just is what it is. So Andrew, even though his family had come from money, he actually was a self-made man, and he did it with manufacturing, and he actually built, ready, caskets. He was the town casket maker, like hand built the caskets. So he actually earned all of his money. He owned lots of investment properties, and he served as a bank president. He owned commercial properties, and he was the director of a lot of textile mills. Now, all of this is to say that Andrew Borden made a lot of money, and his estate was actually worth about $300,000 back in the late 1800s, which is about $9 million today. So, Andrew Borden is not poor. That's what I'm getting at here. Okay? Now, even though Andrew was not poor, he was a very, very frugal. He bought a house in the middle class part of town. So like all of those rich, wealthy cousins, they lived in the really fancy part of town that is called the Hill. Because in Fall River, there were basically three parts of town. They had the poor part, middle class, and then they had the really richy riches up on the hill. It literally was higher than everybody else on a hill, giant mansions. You get it? Got it. Now, Andrew did not spend his money on his house, of course, so he bought this, cheap house. They didn't have indoor plumbing, which was actually really odd for someone of his wealth and stature. And it was said that the girls, growing up, the girls being Lizzie and her older sister Emma, didn't love this. But that'll come into play a little bit later. Okay. So when Lizzie was just 3 and her sister Emma was 12, their mother Sarah passed away, unfortunately. And Emma really became the woman of the house. She took care of Lizzie like she was her own child. Emma really just filled in, and this poor thing, she was only 12 years old, having to do all that. But about 3 years after their mother passes away, their father Andrew marries Abby Gray. Now, it's said that Emma Borden actually really disliked Abby because, Emma was the woman of the house, and she didn't like that Abby's taking over and, taking care of Lizzie and I don't know, basically being woman of the house. She didn't like it. So Emma kind of poisons Lizzie towards Abby. She's like, she's terrible human, a piece of crap, whatever. Emma ends up going off to basically to I guess boarding school, and Lizzie and Abby end up getting a little bit closer. So it was said that, you know, she started calling her mom or mother, and things were better for Lizzie and Abby. But Emma comes back from boarding school and it goes back to normal. Emma and Lizzie do not like Abby. In fact, they never call her mother. They call her Mrs. Borden. And they never even ate dinner with the parents, Andrew and Abby. They just were not around each other. And it was said that Abby didn't really love her stepdaughters either because they were so cruel and unkind to her. Now, the girls were really, really active in church. And that's where, like, all the good people go, so that all their little rich cousins are also at church. And the girls cannot stand to see how their cousins are living, like, basically as kings and queens, while they are living like the poor people. So they're seeing this at church, seeing this in all the groups that they're in together with their cousins, and the girls are just getting really upset with this. They want to live like their cousins on the hill. Now, things started to really get bad when Abby's sister was arrested. It wasn't clear what she was arrested for, but Andrew actually helped to bail her out and to kind of get her started back on, like, where she was in life and get her back on her feet. Andrew gave Abby's sister a house. Remember, he owned a whole bunch of houses? He gave Abby's sister a house. Well, this just pissed the girls off. So they demanded that he give them a house as well. So Andrew Borden sold a house to the girls. They purchased it together for $1. Now, he was probably like, you are ungrateful little brats. Here's a house. Now, the girls had this house for a couple months, and then they decide, like, no, never mind. This really isn't for us. I guess they didn't really want to be a landlord. So they sold the house back to their father for $5,000, which is equivalent to about $144,000 today. So I guess that was a good bit of business venture, girls. Paid $1 to get $5,000. Mom, Dad, where's the house that you can sell me for $1? Heck, I'll pay you $20. Then I could sell it back to you. $200K. How's that sound? No? Okay. Okay, so Lizzie spent a lot of time with animals. She really, really just loved being around them. And she had a pigeon coop in her backyard. And she would go out and she would talk to the pigeons. She would feed the pigeons. She just took care of the pigeons. Well, this is where things started to, I think, crack for Lizzie. Maybe. So in May, hold on, let me get that. Boom. Oh, that just keeps getting wider and wider and weirder and weirder. In May of 1892, Lizzie came home to Andrew in the kitchen with headless pigeons. So Andrew said that he killed the pigeons because it was attracting the neighborhood children who were coming to, like, I don't know, either hunt the pigeons or just tease or torment the pigeons. I don't know. Anyway, and so Andrew decided he was just going to kill the pigeons and have their housekeeper, Maggie, cook them up for a stew for the family for dinner. Well, Lizzie is infuriated. I mean, those are her pet pigeons, so I can see where she would be pissed. I would be pissed. So this starts a downward spiral for her. In June of 1892, Andrew sent his girls on a 6-week European vacation with their cousins. They apparently just would not shut up about the fact that they did not live on the hill with the cousins. So Andrew, in his lack of wisdom, said, all right, you know what? Go on a 6-week vacation with your cousins. Go enjoy all the things that you say you're missing out on life. And then get it out of your system and come back. That wasn't very smart. I mean, like, has he ever met a teenage girl? No, they're not going to be like, oh no, that was fun. Let me go back to my lack of indoor plumbing. No. The girls realized that they liked living like they lived on the hill. So they get back from vacation, and Lizzie is just she doesn't want to go back to the house so much that she actually goes and stays in a boarding house. Like the week she gets back, she stays in a boarding house for the first 4 days. And then eventually she goes back home. Now, about a week after Lizzie gets home, on August 3rd, 1892, Lizzie's uncle, John Morris, who is her mother Sarah's brother, okay? John is coming to stay the night at their home because he needs to talk to Andrew about something. And it's not really clear what it's about. It just, they're pretty certain it was just business deals because Andrew still held some of the property from his late wife's estate. And so it was said that John was coming to talk to Andrew about that. So John is spending the night at the Borden house the night of August 3rd, 1892. Give me 1 second. I'm going to get this going. I'm going to get my things on here and you guys can watch, okay? All right. I really had to concentrate on that. Sorry. I promise I'll try to paint and talk better next time. The other thing is we're about to go through a timeline so that you guys know exactly what we're looking at here. So I'm going to keep referring down in my notes so that I get the timeline right because it's really tight. So at 8:30, everyone was having breakfast. It was the people at the home were Andrew, Abby, Lizzie, John, the uncle, and the housekeeper, Maggie. So that was at 7:30. At 8:48, John leaves to go buy 2 oxen. Never thought I'd say that. Well, okay, so John left to buy 2 oxen, and then also to visit his niece, who lived more inside the city. Okay, so John is gone. At 9 o'clock, Andrew leaves to go on his walk. Now he goes on a walk every morning, and then he walks to work. Okay, to one of the factories. Okay, so Andrew is walking to work, and he starts. Well, let me not get into that yet. At this point, it's 9 o'clock. So from 9 to about 10:30, the housekeeper Maggie is upstairs washing all of the windows on this like really hot day, just washing all the windows. Because she's the housekeeper, so that's what the job was for that day. So about 10:30, because I said 9 to 10:30, about 10:30, Andrew has actually decided to head home. He's not feeling well. The family had eaten something the night before that wasn't really sitting well with any of them. So he came home because he just was not feeling well. So he is outside the house, and Andrew has the key to try to get inside the house. And the key is like stuck. So at this point, that's when Maggie hears him and comes down and tries to help him get the door unlocked, but the door becomes jammed. And then Maggie says an expletive out loud, which kind of made me laugh because I was like, this girl, I mean, like, how old is she? And it's 1892. And I want to know what she said. All it said was expletive. I bet she was too proper to tell them later. She says an expletive, and she says that she can hear Lizzie laughing about it from upstairs, like laughing hysterically that she had just said like shit or something. Oh God, does that mean I'm like Lizzie Borden? Okay, no, because this next part, no. So finally, Maggie and Andrew get the door open. And at this point, Lizzie has come into view. And Andrew comes in and asks Lizzie if she had seen her stepmother, Abby. Lizzie says no, she received a note from a friend that she's sick, so Abby went to go visit her. Andrew was like, okay, well, I'm not really feeling great. I'm going to go lay down. So Lizzie says that she helps her father get to the couch, take off his shoes, put his slippers on, and then lay him down. And then she says she goes out to the barn. Okay? Now, Well, actually, right before she goes to the barn, she tells Maggie, she says, "Hey, Maggie, Sullivan's department store is having a sale on bolts of fabric, and you should really go check it out." Maggie's like, "You know what? I'm not feeling great either. I ate that stew. I'm going to go to my room and take a nap." Lizzie's like, "Okay, I'm going to the barn." So now she goes to the barn. At 10:11, Maggie hears Lizzie screaming from downstairs in the parlor, saying, "Maggie, come quick. Father's dead. Someone has come in and killed him." So Maggie comes down to find Andrew Borden laying on the couch dead. Now, disclaimer, I'm going to put the crime scene photo, so just fast forward a little bit right here. Okay, let's take a look at it. You see how he is on the couch. I want you guys to have a look at his feet. Do you notice any slippers there? No, it's his boots that Lizzie said she took off, right? Okay, so there we go. You see it? All right, I'm going to take it out. Got it. So conveniently, the Borden's doctor lived across the street from them, and Maggie goes to get the doctor. The doctor comes over to Andrew and does in fact confirm that he's dead. Very obvious because the blood is still gushing. That's how recent this attack was. And something more gruesome, his eye was split in half, so it suggested that he was asleep whenever this attack happened. So very recently and was asleep. Okay, things to remember. At this point, the doctor and Maggie, the housekeeper, are just going through the house and kind of walking back towards the house, not up the flight of stairs that was right there, but kind of back. They find Abby Borden dead. She is laid out on the ground. It looks like she was hit in the face and it caused her to turn, and then someone hit her in the back of the head 17 times with a hatchet. And the doctor was able to tell that Abby Borden had actually been dead at least an hour because of the way that the blood was congealing. Oh my God, that word is awful. I'm going to add that to my two other words that are banned. Abby was killed about an hour and a half before Andrew was killed. Now at this point, everybody's taken in for questioning. The doctor, Maggie, and Lizzie. Okay, so all of these folks are brought in for questioning. Now, at this point, Lizzie is giving a conflicting story. She's saying that she heard grunts in the kitchen, that she didn't hear anything, that she was in the barn. So the law enforcement is getting really just not a straight story from her. They also said that they did not like her attitude. She had too much poise and grace for someone who had just witnessed this tragedy or seen, their parent killed, or not killed, but found their dead parent, right? So that basically saying the way she's acting is shady. But even though they say all these things, they fail to check her for blood stains, to inspect her room. In fact, the officers went to go inspect the room, but she said that she wasn't feeling well, so they left her alone, and they left her in the room and never went back to further investigate. Now, at this point, the police officers decide to actually search the house. Good for them, they did something. And they find a hatchet that the handle's been broken. It looks like it's been broken freshly, and that there's ash and dust on this hatchet that looks like it was put there intentionally. So they're like, "Oh, this is suspicious. You know what we should do? We should leave it in the house and not collect it as evidence." Because that's what they did. Okay. Don't worry though. My friends at the police station did go to the house on August 5th, and they confiscated the sister's clothing and the police chief. Oh, and the hatchet. They did get the hatchet. But the police chief and the mayor came to the house to tell Lizzie that she was a suspect. The mayor came to tell her that. Because don't forget, Andrew was very well connected. He was the president of the bank. Do they still have presidents of banks today? Is that a thing? What do? Do you dress like Scrooge McDuck and just sit there? Anyway, I digress. Her dad was important. So the mayor was taking a step in this, telling Lizzie that she was being investigated. Now, the next morning, Alice Russell, a friend that's been staying at the Borden home with the girls to help them feel better, to be there if they need anything, Alice walks into the kitchen and sees Lizzie ripping up a dress. And when she says, okay, why? Lizzie's like, oh, I got paint on it, so I was going to burn it. I mean, is that what you did? Seriously, back then? Like it got dirty, so you burned it? Is that what happened? Now, on August 8th, Lizzie was called on an inquest. Now, that's not like a trial. It's just basically like a interview, kind of, but in front of a judge. Lizzie was so nervous that she was given morphine to kind of calm her nerves. And there's suspicion that the morphine made her act crazy and say crazy things because she's kept changing her story, like in the middle of questioning very abruptly, saying, I was ironing. No, I was in the barn. No, I was sleeping. I wasn't even there. And so the judge felt like she was being very suspicious, so they did order a trial. Now, on August 11th, she's actually arrested officially. So that's what, 5 days after the murder? I feel like that's pretty fast. On June 5th, 1893, Lizzie goes on trial. Now, Lizzie has like a legal dream team here. She has several defense attorneys, one including a former governor of the state of Massachusetts. I knew I was going to do this. I practiced saying this state, and I practiced, and it never fails. Massachusetts. I'm going to say Mass because you know what? That's a hard word to say. Why would we name it that? That's too hard. That's too hard. Anyway, she had a former governor. No, I can't say former governor of the state of Mass. And this governor actually also is the one that appointed the trial judge in Lizzie's upcoming trial whenever he was governor. So, I don't know. I feel like maybe he should have recused himself. But alas, he did not. The prosecution, they did a great job. They pointed very clearly to the fact that it was Lizzie that killed her father and said that there were eyewitnesses that said she was trying to buy poison ahead of time, which they think maybe she actually was. They have the pictures of the crime scene that showed that she had not, in fact, taken off his boots. So that first statement that she gave to the police was incorrect. Her friend Alice Russell did actually testify and say that she was burning a dress the morning of, or the morning after she found out she was a suspect. And the hatchet was put into play about the fact that it was tampered with by someone putting ash on it. All of this stuff really pointed to Lizzie. Now, it's time in the trial where they're going over the injuries that Andrew and Abby Borden had. And during the autopsy, their heads were actually removed, which, is that a common thing? Or was that just like an 1800s weird thing? Anyway, so the heads are brought into the courtroom, and Lizzie sees the heads and promptly passes out. Now, it's at this point the trial changed. They saw her as a sympathetic person. They saw her as grieving the fact that they died because there was, they saw she saw the heads and passed out, so she must really care and it must really affect her. And they did also have, they being the defense, also had one star witness named Hyman Layford, who was basically like a next door neighbor. And he said that he saw Lizzie at the barn, or leaving the barn at 11:03. Now, this is where it gets, I feel like the timeline still proves that Lizzie's guilty. Because first, who keeps record of like when your neighbor's leaving a barn? I don't know whenever I'm leaving the house on time or wrong hour because I forgot it was daylight savings time. Like, I don't know those things. How in the hell am I going to know what time you leave your house? Okay, so I call bullshit on that. Also, her father was supposed to be dead at, I believe it was 11 o'clock was the time of death. So are you saying like you couldn't be off by like 5 minutes before, that would give Lizzie plenty of time to kill you and then get the heck out to the barn and then come out for 11:03. But what this guy, Hyman, did do, besides having a really unfortunate name, he cast basically a doubt on whether or not Lizzie could even do it or even had time to do it. So the timeline worked in Lizzie's favor. The jury was only out for about an hour and a half before they came back with a full acquittal, which is just crazy to me. Is it crazy to you guys, a full acquittal? So after the acquittal, the Borden sisters, Emma and Lizzie, they used the money from the estate that they got to purchase a large house on the hill. So they finally got what they wanted. They got to live up there with Richie Rich cousins and do their thing. Now, when I say they they got full use of the estate, ironically, since Abby died before Andrew, technically, Abby's estate went to Andrew. And then when Andrew died, the estate went to his girls, which is just evil genius. In 1905, Lizzie and Emma got into a huge fight. And Emma moved out and they never spoke to or saw each other again, ever. Lizzie Borden died June 1st, 1927 of pneumonia. Emma Borden died 9 days later of chronic nephritis. Well, it's kind of poetic that even though they didn't speak to each other for, forever, that they died so close to one another. And in fact, since neither one was married, they were actually buried in the family plot right next to each other. When Lizzie died, she, like I said, was unmarried, and she had a substantial amount still in her estate. It was worth about $5 million today, and she left the majority of it to local animal shelters. She left some to friends and family that were still talking to her, and she also left $500, which is worth about $10,000 today, for the perpetual care of her father's grave. Which, if she did it, like, damn, that's ballsy. Going back, there's some speculation as to why Lizzie might have done it, because in all those years, she was the only suspect that really held any traction. Now, there's some thoughts that Lizzie was physically and sexually abused by Andrew, but there was never any proof of that. The problem with that is that it wasn't really documented back then like it is today. It wasn't even talked about like it is today. I mean, like, victims just didn't talk about it and they didn't mention it, and it just was what it was. So they think if that's a possibility, then no one would actually even know about it. Now, the second possibility was that Lizzie and Maggie were actually having a relationship. And the thought was that Abby caught them, and in a fit of rage, she, being Lizzie, killed Abby with a candlestick. That's what their thought is, or what the going theory is. And then after that, when Andrew came home and Lizzie is trying to tell Andrew what happened and why it happened, that Andrew reacted the same way that Abby did, and then Lizzie killed him in a fit of rage. And that Maggie had lied to protect Lizzie and those sort of things. Now, we don't know Lizzie Borden's sexuality, as she never married. That doesn't mean anything. So there were still constant rumors that she was a lesbian. Whatever, who cares? And then Maggie, for what it's worth, did get married and have kids, but on her deathbed, she did tell her sister, according to her sister, that she changed her testimony in order to help Lizzie. That's all the information we have. So, going with that deathbed confession, I just find that much more plausible. I don't know. What do you think? Do you think that Lizzie killed her stepmother and her father? Did she kill him on purpose, or was he kind of like oh God, he came home? I don't know. I have some mixed emotions about it. Now, also, do you think someone else did it? If you do, you're weird, but I want to know why, and I want to know who you think did it. because John wasn't there. Remember, John wasn't there. Anyway, I digress. We'll get into discussion in the comments, okay? Now, last but not least, there is a Lizzie Borden house in Fall Rivers, Mass., and you can visit it. In fact, you can spend the night. You can lay on the couch where